9 luxury items that actually make you money. What if your next luxury splurge could make you money instead of just burn a hole in your wallet? Sounds crazy, right? Think about it. A handbag that doubled in value, a watch that sold for $17 million, even a bottle of whiskey that outperformed the stock market. This isn't fantasy. The ultra rich have been quietly doing it for years. Stick around because we're about to reveal 9 luxury items that can actually line your pockets, not empty them. And trust me, number 9 will blow your mind. Welcome to our channel, where we turn luxury into profit. Today, we're diving into high-end items that appreciate over time, proving that living the good life and building wealth can go hand in hand. Why does this matter? Because wealthy people don't just buy luxury for show. They buy assets that grow. And you can too. Imagine enjoying the finer things in life guilt-free because you know they're likely to be worth more tomorrow. We'll show you real case studies of people who made a fortune from their fancy possessions, plus practical tips so you can start small. By the end of this video, you'll know how to indulge intelligently, turning that urge to splurge into an investment strategy. Sound good? Let's jump in. Number 1, watches. They say time is money, and for luxury watches, that's literally true. The right watch doesn't just tell time, it banks time. Brands like Rolex, Patek Philippe, and Audemars Piguet have models that have skyrocketed in value over the years. Why? Limited production, iconic designs, and a global army of collectors driving up demand. In the late 1960s, you could buy a brand new Rolex Daytona for a few $100s. Fast forward to today, one rare Daytona model, the legendary Paul Newman Daytona, sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $17.8 million. That's not a typo, a $17 million payday from a single watch. Even more common models have seen steady appreciation. Maybe your grandpa's old Submariner is worth 50 times what he paid. Why do they gain value? Besides scarcity, these timepieces often increase in retail price annually, making older editions more valuable for collectors. Plus, certain models, like the Rolex Submariner, Omega Speedmaster, or Patek Philippe Nautilus, have become cultural icons. Everyone wants one, not everyone can get one, so prices climb. Practical tip to start small. You don't need millions to get in on this. Start by researching iconic models that fit your budget. Perhaps a vintage Omega or a lower-priced Rolex Datejust. Buy secondhand from a reputable dealer and always with original box and papers. Keep it in pristine condition. Think of it like owning a classic car. Maintenance and care will preserve its value. And be patient. The real money is in the long game, holding for years. Now, if you love the idea of your watch ticking up in value, wait until you hear how a fashion accessory in your closet could beat the stock market. Ready for it? Let's move on to item number 2, which might be hanging on the arm of the world's richest people. Item number 2, high-end handbags. That's right. That gorgeous purse isn't just arm candy, it can be a secret investment. The resale market for top-tier designer bags has exploded, and savvy fashionistas are cashing in. We're talking about brands like Hermes, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton, the kind of bags with wait lists and cult followings. Why they gain value? Scarcity and timeless appeal. Take the Hermes Birkin, for example. It's notoriously hard to get. You can't just walk in and buy one, you often need purchase history or luck. Supply is limited on purpose, which sends desirability through the roof. Over the past decades, certain Birkin bags have seen an average 14% yearly increase in value, outpacing even gold and the S&P 500. In one study, Hermes Birkin bags never depreciated over 35 years. Imagine a handbag performing better than stocks. And it's not just Birkins. Consider Chanel's classic flat bag. A buyer snagged one in 2016 for under $5,000, and by 2024, its value more than doubled. Chanel routinely hikes their prices year after year, so a bag bought a few years ago often costs significantly more brand new today. which lifts up the resale value of the older one. Classic designs in excellent condition become highly sought-after vintage pieces. Item number 3. Fine art. Ever wonder why billionaires pay millions for paintings? It's not just for bragging rights at cocktail parties. Art can appreciate like crazy, and often more steadily than stocks. In fact, the ultra-rich have long treated paintings and sculptures as part of their investment portfolios. Why? Because a masterpiece can grow in value as the artist's reputation soars and as works become rarer over time. There's only one original of each, after all. Why art gains value: scarcity and cultural significance. A famous painting is one of a kind. When an artist is in high demand, think Picasso, Basquiat, or Banksy, collectors will pay progressively more to own a piece of that legacy. Art doesn't follow the day-to-day chaos of the stock market. It often holds value through economic ups and downs. In fact, contemporary art prices have quietly outpaced the S&P 500 over the last few decades. Wealthy families pass down art as a store of wealth, sometimes for generations. Let's talk about Banksy, the mischievous street artist. In 2018, a Banksy painting famously self-destructed. It shredded itself with a hidden mechanism, just after being auctioned for $1.4 million. Everyone thought the buyer got burned, literally. But here's the twist. That half-shredded artwork became even more valuable because of the stunt. It was retitled "Love is in the Bin" and later resold for $25 million. Talk about turning trash into treasure. And then there's the case of Jean-Michel Basquiat. In 1984, his painting might have sold for a few $1,000s. By 2017, one of his works sold for over $110 million at auction. The right art piece can deliver life-changing returns. Practical tip to start small. You don't need to be a billionaire to invest in art. One way is fractional ownership. Platforms like Masterworks let you buy a tiny share of a famous painting, so you and others collectively own an asset worth millions. If you prefer owning something outright, consider emerging artists whose works you genuinely love. Spend time at local galleries or online art markets. You might snag a piece from a rising star for a few $100. Treat it like venture capital. You're investing in an artist's future career. And always buy what you wouldn't mind holding, because art can take years to appreciate. The bonus? Your home gets a stylish upgrade while you wait for your investment to mature. From canvases to carats, our next item proves that all that glitters can indeed be gold for your net worth. Ready to sparkle? Let's move to item number 4, a shiny investment you might be wearing right now. Item number 4, fine jewelry. Diamonds may be a girl's best friend, but the right piece of jewelry can be an investor's best-kept secret. We're talking high-end rings, necklaces, bracelets, and time-tested gems that can hold or even increase their value. Now, not all jewelry will make you money. Your everyday mall jewelry won't turn a profit. But certain pieces, especially from prestigious brands or with rare gemstones, can appreciate significantly. Why jewelry gains or holds value? 2 main reasons: intrinsic materials and brand pedigree. Fine jewelry is often made of precious metals like gold or platinum and studded with diamonds or rare gems. These materials themselves have baseline value, but the real kicker is when you have a renowned design from a house like Cartier, Van Cleef & Arpels, Tiffany & Company, or Bulgari. Iconic pieces, think Cartier's love bracelet or Juste un Clou nail bracelet, have huge demand on the secondhand market. In fact, one study found Cartier's Juste un Clou bracelet tends to retain over 100% of its value on resale, meaning you could potentially get all your money back and then some. Limited editions or vintage pieces from famous collections can become auction darlings, fetching far above their original prices, especially if the line is discontinued or the item becomes rare. And let's not forget colored diamonds and rare gems. A vivid blue or pink diamond can set world record prices at auction, netting big profits for those who held them over time. Real-life example. Consider the story of the Pink Star Diamond, a 59-carat pink diamond ring. It sold for about $71 million in 2017, earning a nice profit for the seller who had bought it for $52 million just a few years prior. That's nearly $20 million gained just for holding a very shiny rock. And on a more down-to-earth level, think of a classic piece like a vintage Rolex or Patek Philippe watch. Yes, watches count as jewelry too, in a sense, passed down through family. Aside from sentimental value, many of these have auctioned for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another example, a first edition Tiffany & Company Schlumberger brooch from the 1960s might have been bought for a few $1,000s back in the day. Today, it could be worth tens of thousands as a collector's item. Practical tip to start small. If you're not ready to drop 6 figures on fancy bling, start with quality over quantity. Opt for a classic piece from a reputable brand, maybe a simple gold Cartier ring or a pair of Tiffany diamond stud earrings. These are pieces that won't go out of style and will always have a market. Keep all certificates and paperwork, especially for diamonds. You'll need that GIA certificate for resale value. And remember, condition matters. Wear your jewelry with care and get it serviced if needed so it stays pristine. One strategy is to buy pre-owned from a trusted jeweler at a slight discount. Since the initial retail markup is already paid, you have a better chance to resell later at closer to what you paid, or higher. Jewelry also often has an emotional component, so even if it takes a while to appreciate, you get to enjoy wearing it in the meantime. Worst case, you're adorned with beautiful pieces. Best case, you resell and cash in on the sparkle. Now that we've covered investments you can wear, let's switch gears to something you can wear on your feet. It's time for item number 5, and you might want to lace up for this one. It's a market that's kicking traditional investments to the curb. Item number 5, limited edition sneakers. Wait, sneakers? Seriously? Yep. Those limited Nike or Adidas kicks sitting in your closet could be worth a fortune. Sneaker collecting has evolved from a subculture into a bona fide investment market in recent years. We're talking about ultra-rare collaborations and vintage Jordans that sell for more than a car. The rise of sneakerheads turning their hobby into a lucrative side hustle is real. Why sneakers gain value? It boils down to hype, scarcity, and cultural relevance. Big brands release limited runs of certain sneakers, sometimes only a few thousand pairs worldwide, or even a few hundred. When a shoe is designed by or for a celebrity, think Kanye West, Travis Scott, or is a retro re-release of an iconic model, like the original Air Jordans, demand far outstrips supply. As soon as they drop, resale prices shoot up. Sneakers also benefit from an enormous online marketplace, StockX, GOAT, etc., making it easy to trade globally. Basically, a coveted sneaker can sell out in minutes at retail and reappear on resale sites at 5 to 10 times the price immediately. Over time, dead stock, unworn pairs of the most iconic shoes become increasingly scarce, driving prices higher. It's the classic collector's market dynamic, now with high tops and Yeezys. Real-life case study. One famous example is the Nike Air Yeezy 1 prototype worn by Kanye West. It sold for $1.8 million in a private sale, making it the most expensive sneaker ever. But even on a smaller scale, the Nike Mag Back to the Future shoes with self-lacing were auctioned in limited numbers. Originally offered for charity at around $10,000, they've since resold for over $50,000 a pair. Or look at the Louis Vuitton x Kanye West Jasper sneakers. Back in 2009, they retailed for around $1,000, but today a pair of those is worth up to $30,000 on the resale market. That's more than a 20 times increase for some fancy high tops. And of course, the legend of the Air Jordan 1s, an original 1985 pair of Jordan 1s that Michael Jordan game-worn and autographed, sold for $560,000. Not bad for old sneakers, huh? Practical tip to start small. You don't need to be a millionaire or a sneaker guru to begin. Start by following sneaker release calendars and enter the raffles for limited drops. Retail price is usually just $100 to $250. If you hit on a popular release, say a limited Air Jordan or a Yeezy drop, you could immediately flip it for a profit. Many people start this as a hobby, then reinvest the profits into acquiring more coveted pairs. Important: condition is everything. Collectors pay top dollar for dead stock. Brand new, unworn shoes in the box. So if you snag a pair, resist the urge to wear them if your goal is investment. Keep them clean, store them safely, away from heat and sunlight that can degrade materials. Also, do your research. Not every sneaker will moon in value. Learn which collaborations or retro releases tend to appreciate. And be aware the market can be volatile. Hype can die down, so sometimes it's better to sell sooner for a quick profit than hold for years. Still, as far as fun investments go, turning your love for kicks into cash is a pretty sweet deal. We've done watches, bags, art, jewelry, and even sneakers. How about leveling up your entire wardrobe? Our next item is all about high fashion as an investment. Can your clothes actually make you money? With the right pieces, yes. On to item number 6. Designer clothing, limited and vintage. Couture with ROI luxury item number 6. Designer clothing, specifically limited edition, or vintage couture. It's one thing to buy a fancy dress or suit. It's another when that garment becomes a collectible. While most clothes depreciate the minute you take the tags off, certain pieces of designer fashion can hold value or even become more valuable over time. Almost like wearable art. Why clothing can gain value, rarity, and iconic status. If a famous designer releases a limited capsule collection or a piece has historical significance, say a dress worn on a red carpet or part of a renowned season, it can turn into a sought-after collectible. Vintage haute couture from legends like Alexander McQueen, Chanel, or Yves Saint Laurent can fetch high prices at auction, especially if it represents a pivotal fashion moment. Another angle is the streetwear or high fashion crossover. Think of the Supreme x Louis Vuitton collaboration. Those jackets, hoodies, and trunks were super limited and now sell for multiples of their original price due to hype and collector demand. In general, timeless pieces, a classic Chanel tweed jacket or an Hermes silk scarf from a rare print run, tend to retain value because there will always be buyers looking for that classic luxury look. And if the brand significantly raises prices for new items, the older pieces become a bargain in comparison and get snapped up. Real-life example. A vintage Chanel couture gown from the 1960s that might have cost a few $100s back then could today be worth tens of thousands to a collector or museum. On a more everyday scale, consider the classic Chanel tweed jacket. These are staples that, if kept in great condition, can resell years later for several $1,000s, sometimes near what was originally paid, even after being worn and loved. Another example, the Supreme x Louis Vuitton hoodie. It retailed around $800 in 2017 and resells for over $3,000 now because it was a one-time release and fans covet it as a piece of fashion history. Even certain band tees or pop culture shirts from decades ago, original concert tour shirts, etc., have become hot collectibles worth hundreds. The common thread, no pun intended, is limited supply and cultural significance. Practical tip to start small. If you want to dip your toes into investing in fashion, start by buying quality pieces that hold their appeal. Classic luxury items like a Burberry trench coat, a Hermes scarf, or a well-known limited edition sneaker, as we discussed earlier, are good starting points. You can enjoy them and likely resell without much loss later. For true investment, you might hunt for special pieces at estate sales, vintage shops, or online luxury consignment sites. Maybe a vintage band t-shirt for $20 that you can flip for $200 to a collector, or a gently used designer dress that was an it item in a past season that fashion archivists are hunting for. Keep the items in excellent condition. That means proper cleaning and storage. Buy garment bags, use cedar to protect, etc. And be prepared to hold on to it until the right buyer comes along. Finding a buyer for niche fashion can take time, but the payday can be worth it. The best part? You can wear your investment occasionally and still profit later. Just do so carefully. After all, you get to feel like $1,000,000 now and maybe make a buck later. Speaking of feeling like $1,000,000, how about driving something that not only turns heads, but could turn into a small fortune? Buckle up, because item number 7 is an investment you can take for a spin. Classic cars. For gearheads and collectors alike, vintage automobiles aren't just about nostalgia. They can be big money makers. A well-chosen classic car can appreciate tremendously, sometimes outpacing more traditional investments. Plus, let's admit it, cruising on a Sunday in your investment is a lot more fun than watching stock tickers. Why classic cars gain value? Limited supply. They're not making any more 1969 Mustang GTs or 1950s Mercedes Gullwings. Historical significance and hobbyist demand. As certain models age, they become rarer due to accidents, wear, or people stashing them away. So surviving examples in good condition become coveted. Iconic models that defined an era or starred in movies tend to shoot up in value. Think the Aston Martin DB5 from James Bond, or any Ferrari that had a winning racing history. There's also a large community of collectors worldwide who attend auctions, swap stories, and drive up prices for the most desirable marquees. A classic car in mint condition with matching numbers, original engine and parts, is like the holy grail. Enthusiasts will pay top dollar for authenticity and rarity. Over the past decade, indices of classic car values have shown strong growth, especially for the cream of the crop models. Real-life case study. The Ferrari 250 GTO of the 1960s is often cited as the pinnacle of car investments. Back in 1962, the 250 GTO sold for around $18,000 new, a fortune at the time, but nothing compared to now. Fast forward to recent years, a 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO sold at auction for about $48.4 million in 2018, and another privately sold for an estimated $70 million, making it the most expensive car ever sold. Imagine inheriting that from Grandpa's garage. For a slightly more attainable example, the 1960s Aston Martin DB5, the model James Bond drove. If you bought one in the 70s or 80s for maybe low six figures, you'd be sitting on well over $1 to $2 million today, for a well-kept example. Even certain American muscle cars have seen big gains. A 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible was worth maybe $50,000 in the 80s. One sold for $2 million in 2014 at auction. Clearly, the right car can be like gasoline for your portfolio. Practical tip to start small. You don't need to break the bank at Sotheby's car auction to get in on this. Consider more affordable future classics. These are cars that are relatively cheap now but have a cult following and could appreciate as they become rarer. For instance, Japanese sports cars from the 1990s like the Toyota Supra MKIV, Acura NSX, or Nissan Skyline GTR have all shot up in value as collectors' nostalgia kicks in. 10 years ago, a Supra might be $30,000. Now some sell for over $100,000. The key is to look for limited production models, special trims, or cars with cultural significance. Movie cars, last of their kind, etc. Always get the best condition you can afford. A well-maintained, low-mileage car will appreciate more and be easier to sell. Keep up with maintenance and documentation. A thick folder of service records adds to value. And be prepared to store it properly. Garage, cover, and start it up regularly to keep it running. Even if it takes time to see big gains, you get the joy of owning a piece of automotive history. Worst case, you have a sweet ride. Best case, you sell it down the road for a solid profit. Just don't forget to insure it appropriately. You want those wheels of fortune protected. If cars aren't your speed, maybe you prefer something a bit more liquid. Our next luxury item you can actually pour into a glass, and it's been quietly crushing the market. Get ready for item number 8 and maybe grab a corkscrew.
Item number 8, fine wine. Aged like a fine investment? Absolutely. Collectible wines and their spirited cousin, whiskey, which we'll get to next, have become a serious asset class. Picture this. You buy a case of a top-notch Bordeaux, tuck it away in a cellar, and years later, each bottle is worth 10 times what you paid. All while it was just sitting there getting older and better. That's the allure of fine wine investing. It's tangible, enjoyable, if you choose to drink it, and historically has shown impressive price appreciation. Why wine gains value? Fine wines from renowned vineyards, think Chateau Lafite Rothschild, Domaine de la Romanée Conti, Screaming Eagle, etc., are produced in limited quantities each year. As the wine ages, it often improves in taste up to a point, and collectors and connoisseurs are willing to pay a premium for a well-aged, perfectly stored bottle of an exceptional vintage. Meanwhile, as time passes, people drink those wines, so the supply of that vintage steadily declines. Simple supply and demand, fewer bottles in the world, higher prices for the remaining ones. Moreover, wine has shown resilience as an asset. During economic downturns, it doesn't crash as hard. Fun fact, during the 2020 pandemic turmoil, when stock markets tanked, fine wine prices dipped only about 1.4%. Over longer periods, wine indexes have outperformed many stocks and certainly kept ahead of inflation. It's also a favorite of the wealthy to park some money, a passion investment that's not correlated with stocks. Real-life case study. In 1982, Bordeaux had a legendary vintage. A forward-thinking buyer could purchase a case of 1982 Chateau Lafite Rothschild for maybe a few $100s back in the day. Today, that case can easily be worth tens of thousands of dollars if perfectly stored. Or consider Domaine de la Romanée Conti, DRC, from Burgundy, arguably the world's most coveted wine. A single bottle of the famed 1945 vintage DRC sold for $558,000 at auction in 2018. That's for one bottle. Originally, it might have cost maybe $50 or so back in the 40s. Even more modern wines. California cult Cabernets like Screaming Eagle were released in the 1990s at around $300 a bottle. Now older vintages trade for $3,000 to $5,000 each. Clearly, some people's wine cellars have beaten their 401k. Practical tip to start small. You don't have to be a millionaire or have a personal wine cellar to invest in wine. There are online platforms and wine funds where you can buy fractional shares of wine portfolios or store wine professionally on your behalf. If you want to do it yourself, start by buying a few bottles of a great vintage from a top winery, maybe $50 to $200 a bottle, and store them properly. Properly means a cool, dark, temperature-controlled environment, around 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 70% humidity, no sunlight, and no vibration. There are wine storage facilities if you don't have a perfect spot at home. Look for wines with a track record. First Growth Bordeaux, Grand Cru Burgundy, or limited production cult wines. You'll also want to follow wine auction results or indices, like Livex Index, to see market trends. Importantly, patience is key. Wine often needs 5, 10, 20 years to reach peak drinkability and peak value. And here's a fun safety net. If the investment doesn't pan out, you still have some outstanding wine to enjoy, as they say in vino veritas, and in vino maybe profitus, if that were a Latin word. We've saved one of the most surprising and top-performing luxury investments for last. It's liquid gold in a bottle and has topped the charts in recent years. You've guessed it, or maybe you haven't. But our final item, number 9, is going to take the concept of cheers to your wealth to a whole new level. Drum roll, please.
Item number 9, rare whiskey. Believe it or not, rare whiskey has been one of the best money-making luxury assets of the past decade. Yes, that bottle of aged Scotch or bourbon sitting unopened could be worth more than its weight in actual gold. Whiskey, especially Scotch whiskey and also rare Japanese whiskey or bourbon, has created a modern-day gold rush for collectors. In terms of percentage returns, the rare whiskey market has simply outperformed almost everything. Why whiskey gains value. Much like wine, whiskey benefits from limited releases and the passage of time. Distilleries often release special edition bottles, maybe a 30-year-old single malt from a closed distillery, or a limited batch tied to a specific cask or year. Once those are sold, that's it, finite supply. As whiskey enthusiasts and investors scramble to get a piece, prices on the secondary market go up. But here's the kicker. Unlike wine, an unopened bottle of whiskey doesn't spoil or change once bottled. Whiskey doesn't age further in the bottle, which means if kept sealed and stored well, it can basically sit indefinitely. This allows for some extremely old bottles from decades past to survive, and their value becomes astronomical due to rarity and collectability. Meanwhile, the global demand for premium whiskey, especially Scotch and Japanese whiskey, has surged, with new wealthy buyers in Asia, the Middle East, and everywhere chasing the same rare bottles. The result? A whiskey that cost $100 in 2000 might be worth $1,000+ today, depending on what it is. In fact, a well-known index of rare whiskeys showed about 280% growth over 10 years, making it a superstar investment. Real-life case study. The records in the whiskey world are astounding. Consider the Macallan 1926, a 60-year-old Scotch from a famous cask. A bottle of it, with a special label by artist Valerio Adami, sold for $1.1 million in 2018. You might think, well, that must be the peak. Nope. In 2019, another bottle of the same stuff, with a different artist's label, sold for $1.9 million. And then in 2023, yet another bottle from that cask went for $2.7 million at auction. That's a new record for any bottle of spirit. To put it in perspective, in the 1980s, that bottle originally sold for maybe 20,000 pounds, which was a lot then. But nothing like the millions today. And it's not just ancient bottles. A 23-year-old bottle of Pappy Van Winkle bourbon, highly coveted in the bourbon world, retailed around $300 a decade ago and now fetches $3,000 plus. A Japanese Yamazaki 50-year-old whiskey first sold for $10,000 in 2005. One of those bottles sold for over $300,000 in 2018. These are serious returns that beat most stock portfolios, and all you had to do was hold your liquor, literally, on a shelf. Practical tip to start small. Getting into whiskey investing can be both accessible and tricky. Accessible because you can find limited edition bottles at retail if you're lucky. Some releases are a few $100s. Tricky because the good stuff often sells out instantly. Start by hunting for special releases from known distilleries: the Macallan, Lagavulin, Glenfiddich, Yamazaki, Hibiki, Buffalo Trace's Antique Collection, etc. Many enthusiasts join local whiskey clubs or mailing lists to get alerts on limited releases. When you snag a good bottle, do not open it if your goal is investment, no matter how tempting. Buy a second bottle for drinking if you must. Store it upright. Unlike wine, keep whiskey upright to prevent the high-proof alcohol from eating the cork in a cool, dark place. Ensure any packaging or numbered certificates remain intact. Even relatively modest releases, say a $150 limited edition single malt, can turn into a $500 bottle in a few years if it wins awards, or the distillery discontinues that line. Also consider whiskey cask investment. Some programs allow you to buy an entire cask of new make whiskey and let it age, then bottle it after, say, 10 years. The bulk yield can give you both bottles to sell and a unique experience. As always, research is key. Some bottles are hyped and then fade, while others become legendary. The good news? Whiskey has a built-in failsafe. If the market doesn't go your way, you still own a bottle of fantastic whiskey. You could literally drink your losses, preferably with a friend, to toast that you tried. But for many, whiskey has been the toast of their portfolio. Cheers. There you have it. 9 luxury items that prove not all spending is wasting. In fact, the right purchases can be profitable. From watches that turn time into money, to handbags doubling as investment portfolios, to rare spirits giving Wall Street a run for its money. Wealth isn't just about stocks and real estate. The wealthy have known this secret. Buy assets, not liabilities. Even their toys, art, and fashion are chosen with an eye on future value. The great news is, you don't have to be a millionaire to start applying this mindset. Think about it. Next time you're tempted to splurge on something fancy, ask yourself, will this hold value? Could this even grow in value? By choosing the right kind of luxury, you get the joy of ownership now and the potential of a payday later. It's like having your cake and eating it too, except the cake might actually get more expensive while you savor it. This is how you level up your financial game. You're not just a consumer, you're an investor collector. But remember, due diligence is key. Not every watch, bag, or bottle will be a winner. You have to do your homework, be patient, and often focus on quality, rarity, and condition. And only invest money you're okay tying up for a while. These plays usually need time to mature, just like that whiskey. The upside: it can be incredibly fun and rewarding, both personally and financially. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these 9 luxury investments surprised you the most? Are there any you're excited to try? Or maybe you have your own story of a luxury item that made you money. Share it in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else. If you enjoyed this video and got some value, literally, out of it, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into building wealth while living well. We've got plenty more fascinating topics on the way. You won't want to miss them. Remember, living in luxury and investing for the future don't have to be opposites. With the right approach, they can be one and the same. So go ahead, dream big, live stylishly, but most importantly, live smart. Until next time, stay wealthy, stay savvy. And as always, thanks for watching.